what was the experience, or what did we learn about savings with See and Spray when it comes to adjusting settings or the types of nozzles we're using? What did we see out there for savings in 2024?
For us as cooperative, having the three, just because we ran these numbers before we came up here, I mean, we save our customers is $112,000 across 42,000 acres. That basically shoots you about $3 an acre with the fees or subscriptions of last year. So that number will definitely increase this year on savings.
Yeah, and as far as our users went, we're doing our best to build out guidance for best practices going forward, and we're so grateful for our early adopters, those growers who helped us learn so much. But we're kind of coming from an angle of you can change those sensitivity settings so that you can get greater savings or less, but we like to set them right about the middle, and then our farmers have kind of gone out and seen they're making sure they get that weed kill. They could really tighten those margins down even more. I know we have growers in the Northwest who are up at 96, 98% savings because they have gotten so good at those sensitivity settings. So it's a learning process, but we are able to capitalize off the things that you guys have learned to help you guys moving forward. So.
Jared, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so when we started, I might have been a little more skeptical on this, so I had it at the most aggressive settings you could, so it was spraying the most it could. And we were at about a 50-50 savings. And then as I got familiar more with the technology and the savings and stuff like that, I throttled it back to kind of the default factory settings. And it was about a 60% savings. I think I got as high as 63% once. So, just the default settings alone are going to save you a lot. And there's not going to be any skips out there. The technology and the cameras on that machine are very good.
And there's tools you can use really built into the machine. If you drive it out into the field and you walk out in front and you say, there's a small weed, or there's a small weed that's in the row, lay your pocket knife next to it, or lay something next to it, drive the machine up, turn that camera on the display, and you'll be able to see, of course, your pocket knife will be glowing, but it's going to tell you with color coordinating if it's green, it's a good plant. If it's purple, it's a weed. And if it's not showing the weed that you want to kill, you can right there change the sensitivities and see what those do. But to their point, the medium setting is the right setting by far the majority of the times. There should be a really good reason, why you're leaving that medium setting, that number 3. I think in the future, as we get better and better, there probably won't even be this setting, but for sure we wanted some flexibility in the system.
And Lee, maybe you can dive in a little bit deeper. So there's a couple different settings on that, and the levels of settings, whether it's the high sensitivity or low sensitivity, and how that makes adjustment. Do you spray more? Do you spray less, or what those settings are?
Yeah, so there's a 1 to 5 setting, 5 being like ultra sensitive. If you have any doubt, just spray. Down to 1, hey, be super certain that it's a weed before you spray, that kind of range. And so it's basically confidence built into the models, right? If you think about See and Spray as like this facial recognition program, right? And you see somebody walking at you hundreds of yards away, the first thing you're able to tell is if it's an adult or a child, right? And then they get closer and you start to pick up on other cues. It's kind of like that. The confidence of the model, it's using color, but it's not using color very much. It's using the shape of the leaf, the growth pattern of the plant, the reflections of different light light sources we can't even see ourselves. It's doing all of these in milliseconds, and it's classifying, hey, I've seen that before. That's water hemp next to a soybean, whatever. It's that confidence level. And there are times where the leaf is partially behind a good leaf, right? And so it's seeing a portion sticking out and it's saying, I'm pretty sure that's a weed, but I'm not completely certain. That's really where the sensitivity, but 3, that middle setting should, it will be very good.
And then there's one other setting that I think directly correlated to the savings that you're going to see is those buffers. What we recommend is running in small. We're pretty confident you're going to hit that weed, but as the wind starts to pick up, that's when we start adjusting those buffers either laterally or longitudinally to make sure you're hitting that weed and it's in the center of the spray development. So typically run at a small, that's where you're going to get your most savings. But as the wind picks up and you want to make sure you're hitting it, start extending those.
And on the engineering side, we put, blue pond dye in the first tank, and we go out and spray areas, and we go look to see if the non-dyed areas, if we can find a weed, or if in the blue, and several of us have been out in the field, there'll be sometimes 8 people looking at a blue dye patch, and no one can find a weed, and then finally someone sees this 1/4-inch weed at the center, that it sprayed, and that's the kind of things that make you say, okay, this thing knows what it's doing.